Hey, everybody. This episode of Our Kids Play Hockey is brought to you by our title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena. Look, we all want our kids to succeed in hockey, but let's face it, finding training that's both effective and enjoyable can be a real challenge, and not to mention expensive and a total drain on time, especially if you have to drive to the rink, pay a private instructor. There's so many reasons that money gets spent on this game. But that's where NHL Sense Arena steps in. It's a virtual reality training game that brings the rink into your home that takes off-ice training to a new reality. It's designed to improve hockey sense and IQ, something that's lacking majorly in the game today for both players and goalies. And you get unlimited access to over 100 drills and training plans from top coaches and players that can be played anytime, anywhere, with drills approved by USA Hockey player and goalie development directors. Look, improving mental hockey skills at home has really never been more fun, and any hockey player that uses this is going to have a blast. All right. I've used this before on my own, and it feels like you're so immersed in an arena, you sometimes forget you have a headset on. And again, it's not being on the ice, but it allows you to work on some of these skill sets like scanning, as I said before, hockey IQ, looking around the rink, making the right plays, that getting those repetitions in now as a hockey player are super important for your development. So NHL Sense Arena is giving all the listeners an exclusive offer for $50 off an annual plan when you use our code Hockey Never Stops at checkout. Again, that's Hockey Never Stops. All you got to do is go to hockey.sensearena.com. Again, that's hockey.sensearena.com. Use the code Hockey Never Stops, and you'll save $50 on your annual plan of NHL Sense Arena. Make sure to check that out and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. What's up, everybody? It's Lee. First part of a two-part episode with Coach Pete Whitney today. We sent this out on our Facebook page. He is a former collegiate coach. He's coached at every level. He really knows the game. So the first part of this episode is actually Mailbag. We asked you for questions. You asked some great questions. It did about 45 minutes with him, and he's going to answer your questions about what it takes to get to the collegiate level, the pathways, if you want to call them that, the journey to the collegiate level, and then what coaches look for in parents as they approach the collegiate level of hockey. So a lot of informative stuff, really from the mite level up for this one. Also, approaching the holidays, as we say every episode right now, if you're looking for a great deal for yourself, for your kid, for your team, email us directly, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. We'll send you over all the deals that we have cultivated for you to make your holiday shopping easy. And we always appreciate the support, to be perfectly honest. You are the best audience in hockey. Just love running into you in the open and love getting your emails about how you find that there's a whole community of people out there that support you in the way that you're, raising your kid, raising your hockey player, and as we walk this journey together. So without further ado, enjoy part one of our two-part series with Pete Whitney here on Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world. Welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. We got a recurring guest here, Pete Whitney, college coach, post-university, sends a lot of kids to college hockey, to pro hockey, Hobie Baker finalist. He's been here before. If you want his intro, go back and listen to the last interview we did with him, which was just a few episodes back. But Pete Whitney is a friend of the show. We are absolutely ecstatic to have you back again, Pete. Thanks for being here on Our Kids Play Hockey.
No, you're welcome. It's good to be back, Lee. Everybody else, Christy and Mike, good to see you guys.
It's good to have you back. I also have to introduce the people you just mentioned. Christy Casciano-Burns, Mike Benelli, the regulars. Every episode's over, well over 100 episodes now. I think this is our 2-year mark, guys. Super well established. I want to give a quick shout out to our audience once again for putting us in the top 10 and really making this show something special that we love to do. And it attracts people like Pete to come and be reoccurring guests. So diving right into it, Pete, we put out there that we were going to have you back on, and we got several questions here from our mailbag for you. So I want to start there. And then after these questions, we're going to dive into what it takes to really start a program from scratch. It's something you did at Post really successfully. And I'm not sure people fully understand what it takes to start from nothing, right? Because it's a little bit different. There's no history, there's no culture. You have to develop all that. So for those of you listening, again, stay tuned for that, because that's going to be a really great conversation. But let's jump into the mailbag. First question comes from Sam for you. And it's, what can parents do behind the scenes to help guide their child to play college level hockey?
I'm not sure what age we're talking here, but just in general, be supportive. be supportive to them, right? Number one. Number two, don't criticize them. If they want to talk about their game, how things went, have that conversation. Number three is support the coaches, because the worst thing you can do is sit at the kitchen table and have dinner on a Sunday and talk about how the coach doesn't know what he's doing, or they made a mistake, or he should have done this, or she should have done that kind of thing. And the biggest reason for that is obviously the short-term negativity, that's clear, but long-term is you're creating that an atmosphere where I'm going to make an excuse for you. And that's not a good thing. So supporting not only your player, supporting the coach and the coaching staff, and then honestly kind of chipping in and helping out wherever you can. I know a lot with a lot of local youth organizations. I see they have little snack bars, parents clubs, things like that. Try to get involved with that kind of stuff and enjoy yourself a little bit too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, well, so I'm probably guilty of all that. But so basically, so I think one of the other things too that I really try to impart on my guys, and even the players that I'm with and the parents that I talk to, right, is just don't compare yourself to other players and where they're going. Like, it's your journey, right? It's like, you can't say, oh, well, so and so is doing this and they're going here, or like it really is that individual player, right, Pete? That it's what, again, unless you're getting recruited for a Division I full ride scholarship and your ultimate destination will be to play pro hockey, which is, obviously that happens, and there's a lot of kids that do that. But most of it is really, finding out and aligning, what are your likes, what are your dislikes? Do you like big schools? Do you like small schools? What's your major going to be? I mean, really, that piece of, not saying, well, these other 5 kids on the team are looking here, but really focusing on your player and what their needs are.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I mean, and you see it a lot, right? Mike Benelli is gaining a lot of interest. People are interested in him, potential Division I player. So Mike Benelli is going over to Program X. You know what? Let's go. We're going to go to Program X too. So now you go to Program X and you're with Mike Benelli, which is great. However, they're all there to see Mike Benelli. Yeah. So if I stay where I am and I excel there and just get better as a player, now that's my time, right? And like you're saying, you have to separate yourself and create who you are as a player and not just follow. And there's a lot of kids that I've seen over the years that played on the quote unquote best teams that never played anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. They've won championships, right? But they really haven't, they've won them because somebody else won them.
Right. I'm not that interested in, when I recruit players, I don't ask them at the squirt and peewee levels, how many state championships they won. Right. Yeah. So creating your own identity, not following, because that's an easy trap to fall into, right? Mike Benelli's getting a lot of interest. He's going here. I'm going there. Oh, the next year, Mike's jumping to this team. Well, I'm going to try out for that team too. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
No, Pete, I only came to this podcast because Michael Benelli was here. Are you trying to tell me that was wrong in your assessment? And Christy too. I mean,
follow my coattails.
I'm teasing, obviously.
Podcasts don't count.
No, okay, just make it sure. Pete, one more follow up on that. I know a coach right now who's a college coach and is dealing with a lot of parent issues where parents are audibly causing a problem. Let me just put it that way. At the games, behind the scenes. And she's in a position where we're having conversations almost weekly here about how to deal with that. Right. So
wait, you're talking about college level?
I'm talking about college level. All right. So,
okay.
So
not St. Michael. It's not St. Michael's, Christy.
No, it's not. It's not that team. Promise you, that's not that team. But a lot of the conversations here are about communication, so forth and so on. So now here's the deal. I'm not going to ask about how she should deal with that situation because that's every coach has to deal with that. What I do want to focus on is from a college coach perspective. It is extremely unattractive as a college coach when I have to deal with the player and the parent and separately, and there's not communication going on. So just to I'm going to kind of prompt you here, but obviously talent is very attractive to a college coach, but the type of person you are, the type of character you have of, can you carry a conversation with me? Can you come up to me? Do you do community service? Are you a good person? Right? Do you need your parents to talk for you? And I'm not knocking parents, right? But we're talking about developing young people into young adults. This is an important part of it, right? Speak for yourself, have an opinion. You said earlier, support the coaches. Well, there's absolutely going to be situations as parents where you don't like, quote unquote, or support the coach. You still have a responsibility to teach your kid how to deal with that type of adversity, right? So I'm again, the prompt here is you got to create a whole person, right? It's not just the talent.
Well, the biggest thing with that, and you touched on it, I think, is you have a golden opportunity here as a coach and as a student athlete to grow as a person and to learn how to be your own advocate. So obviously that's got to be part of the discussion, right? Team meeting, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about anything. We can agree to disagree, which is fine because that's part of the real world, and that's kind of what we're trying to help. Another thing we're trying to help you learn here as you become a student athlete, and maybe move on after, maybe don't. But if you can take with you the ability to talk to someone who you feel is an authority, in this case it's a coach, maybe it translates down the road to a boss, you'll be a better person. And it's about what we're doing. It's about us. I mean, once you get to the college piece, that's one of the most wonderful things about it, is we have our own little fraternities, our little sororities, whatever you want to call them, right? We have our own niche where I love you, mom, I love you, dad, but this isn't your place.
Right.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. I mean, right now, my daughter's in college. The only conversations we have with the coach might be regarding an injury. Sophia, just suffered a shoulder injury. So we have a conversation with him about that. What's the treatment? What's the trainer say? How should we proceed? But as far as the team itself, the only other conversations we might have is, are we going to have, something, team related, a team dinner, where all the parents get to know each other. There are no other conversations,
Right.
unless maybe if something developed and it was a question about, your kid's character. Yes, maybe you might want to jump in there and say, hey, just so you know, we don't particularly like the decision made here. But all other conversations need to happen between the student athlete and the coach. They're old enough, they need to handle it on their own. Parents shouldn't be getting involved in any other level of hockey.
Yeah, I agree from all of that. I mean, I'm just going to come from a perspective as coaching in college and knowing, like, with parents. Like, for my level, I was coaching at the Division III level, so I didn't get, I wasn't at Michigan's, where everything was given to the athlete and everything was like the parent literally didn't even have to exist. Like the student got everything, right? I didn't even know. Wouldn't even matter if they had a mom or dad, because they were an athlete. They were a vehicle to academics and winning and everything else. But I think at a lot of levels, club level, Division III level, the coaches really do love the parent involvement from the perspective, Christy, that you were kind of saying, like, listen, you want to do, if I'm going to be, we're going to be going up to Buffalo for a weekend and you're from Buffalo and you want to have the team over for dinner. Great. We love that kind of stuff. If you're a parent, you want to help with fundraising, if you want to help with some special events, but it can't be a quid pro quo, right? It can't be like, well, if I do this, then my kid gets ice time.
Totally.
So
Exactly.
thinking about the recruitment process, if I'm aligning myself with Coach Whitney, right, and my kid is in that process, and my player moves into that school and that situation, it's a tightrope, but it can be done, and it could be navigated, right, Pete? That you find parents that have special gifts from what they do professionally and time-wise that can help organizations that don't get all the great resources that other organizations get, as long as you know where that line is with, right. Don't ask me about ice time, don't ask me about play, but if you can help us enhance the rest of the student body, I love that. I think that's great.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, when we did our fundraising, we had that. We had a parent that was great, that would help organize and kind of keep the kids on track, and it was good. It was very good. But I mean, life in general, right? Don't do something expecting something in return, because
Right.
generally speaking, you'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I
Right,
agree.
and it does help that your best players sometimes are their best, are your best, your parents are of your best players.
Yeah,
You love that. You're like, oh, please,
when there's that
be the
scenario,
player
that's
I
a
never
win.
have to worry
That's a
about.
That's the
win-win
Right.
right
dream.
there.
That's the dream. Yeah, I was about to say, like, the more you don't expect from people, actually, the easier life becomes. And you're always surprised when people do nice things for you. A couple of quick notes here. One is, Christy, I'm glad you brought up Sophia. Obviously, we're wishing her the best. I know she's dealing with an injury right now. So
Yeah.
just a shout out from our team to
Thank you.
her right now. Yeah. We love Sophia on this show. She's been the inspiration for a lot of topics and a lot of books.
Right.
We'll put it that way. Couple quick ones too. So parents that are listening, right? Especially the younger parents, kind of the U12 down. In regards to this question, remember, these good habits, you can start them early. I'll give you a really simple example. I was talking to a parent on my son's team the other day, and her kid doesn't dry the equipment, and she goes, I have to take it out. I said, make him take it out. Start the habit now of drying your equipment, and it'll follow him through. So it's the same thing with these little tiny micro conversations. Questions for you parents. Does your son or daughter thank their coach and the ref after each game? Thank you for coaching me today. Thank you for reffing today. Are they respectful to the other parents? These are little tiny things. You start doing 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, they carry through. All right. And again, if your kid's older than that, start doing them now. But these little micro interactions, these little understandings of, no, you go do it. You go say thank you. You show respect. And then parents, obviously, we have to lead by example too. They go a really long way. Right. And if you've never done that and your kids never talk to anybody and they're 18, they're going to have a hard time communicating. And I want to make this clear. This generation, which I'm not bashing, they already have a hard time communicating. All right. They've been on phones their whole lives. They text to communicate, and they've just been through a massive pandemic where they couldn't communicate in person with anybody. So in my opinion, I have some empathy there for that age group of, we as parents and as leaders need to kind of encourage face-to-face communication a little bit more. Pete, did you want to comment on that before I kind of go to the next thing?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention that you brought up about the younger parents, I think one of the best things a younger parent can do is when you go to a practice, and I'm talking essentially mites at this point, because that's really right, the introductory before the whole learn to play thing. I think mites is really kind of where it starts. Look for an older parent who has a mite.
Right.
Because there's a good chance they have a peewee or a bantam or a squirt, and they've been through it before. And align yourself with that person, at least conversationally, because they have been through what you've been through, and they can be a great resource for you to kind of guide you a little bit. Simple things about, what about the program? Hey, how long has this coach been coaching? How long is that? What do I expect moving forward? Like, what's this program like? Tell me what you like about it. Just a good conversation about it. But rather than essentially a bunch of new people trying to figure it all out, find somebody who's had a boy or a girl that in the program, and have a good conversation with them.
That's a fantastic piece of advice. And again, it's like parenting, right? I think a lot of people, I'd even put myself in this a little bit. When you have your first kid, sometimes it's easy to fall in that trap of, I'm the first parent ever. Where you forget that people have been doing this for literally tens of thousands of years. It's okay to ask, right? It's the same thing with hockey. You're not the first mite ever. And there's a lot of information that can come from that. I'm not trying to sound condescending with that. It's just a fantastic point, right? Ask around, ask about the coaches.
And look down the hall. If you see a guy like me, like somebody grumbling to themselves and pointing and kind of pacing and rolling their eyes, don't go to that person.
That's not you.
Run the other way.
Yeah,
run the other way. Don't go to the jaded. Don't go to the jaded.
We call that the Benelli back off. Yeah, just go
see that guy. See the guy the crazy guy over there. Yeah, his kids have played hockey at a higher. He's come through the system already. Don't
Yeah.
go to that guy.
Son, never trust anybody over 40 with no gray hair. It's not real. No, I'm just kidding.
Veteran parents are a great resource. You can't
they-
deny that.
Right.
They are.
Even though you are a little grumpy down the halls, and people like to stay away from you, but you can learn so much from them, especially if you're trying to fit your schedule with a good hockey schedule. Ask the parent, I mean, what does this coach require? How does he feel about my kid going to a birthday party? Is he gonna, punish my kid for doing that? Find out a coach's philosophy, what hours the team is required, to show up and practice, how many days a week, what's it like on the weekend? Is it a travel team? When they say travel team, does that mean going to Canada every weekend, or does it mean just going 40 minutes away? There are different definitions of travel, as I found out. So
if that dad or mom is still in the program, either they're back crazy or they like the program. Like they're like, wow, okay, I'm in it again. So great. So what was the great things about that now your other son or daughter is in the system? What did you like about it?
Yeah, for all the kids listening, we're sorry for Mike's language. It's just language. No, I'm totally teasing, Mike. You just got to be you.
Kaylin should bleep that out.
Yeah, no, and Christy, you bring up a good point too. That this is kind of the final point I wanted to make before we move on to the next question, is that it's like dating in a way. You follow me here. The more people you date, the more you find out what you do and don't like about a potential friend or partner. Okay, and coaching is similar in the sense of you should be drawing out how am I effectively coached? What do I like? What don't I like? Now, listen, when you get to college, some of us have choices, some of us don't, but have a clue of how are you coached well? Because I'll tell you what, one of the things I do as a coach, I can only speak for myself, is I like to know how my players are motivated, right? So a player who really knows, like, look, I really shut down when you yell at me. All right. And again, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be stern with that person, but I'd like to know that, or I'm really encouraged when this type of stuff happens. As long as there's the understanding of, okay, I am the leader of the ship as the coach, and I'm glad that we can have this conversation. I think that's very valuable, but you have to know. So the more parents, going back to what you said, Pete, if you have a coach you really don't like, okay, note what you don't like about the coach, the behavior, how that's working with you and your family and your kid. All right. And then don't point the finger. I think that's a super amazing point. Take accountability of, okay, we don't like this as a family or as a player. How are we going to deal with that? All right. And then do some self-inspection. Is it me? That's always hard to do. Right. Am I the one being unruly? Okay. If you're 12 years old, 13 years old, it might be you. That's tough to tell anybody at that age, though, to be fair. Moving on here real quick. So listen, we did get one question here. I don't want to answer this one. John asked, what do they look for in kids as is coaching regarding off-ice grades, other extracurriculars? We definitely covered that in the last episode with Pete. So make sure to check that one out. Again, if you haven't heard that episode, it was fantastic. But Pete, this next one from Kurt was actually a pretty good one. It says, what are the paths to the different levels of college hockey? For example, if you want to play D1, do you have to play at a high level of junior? If you want to play at D2, most have to play junior at some level and so forth. And it says this, understanding there are many different paths, what are the most common paths to college hockey at high or different levels?
And let's make the distinction here. You're addressing men's hockey because they're very different for women's hockey.
True. That's very true.
Okay, so we'll talk men's hockey. Go, Pete.
Okay, so on the men's side, I cringe a little bit every time I hear the word path, because to me, path indicates that there is a finite way to get somewhere. And there really isn't. I mean, there's not a finite way. Okay, if you do A, B, and C, you're a Division I player. If you do A and B, you'll be a Division III player. If you do A, you'll be an ACHA club player. Like there's no set path. That's one of the situations that exists with hockey, because we're talking about athleticism, right? We're talking about athletics, and athletics is everything from the physical size of the individual involved to their commitment, to their skill level, all those things. So early on, development is the most important piece, regardless of what level you're playing in youth. You don't have to start as a AAA player when you're 8 years old in order to become a Division I hockey player. I know Division I hockey players who never ever got picked for a USA Hockey Select Festival, and they still went on to play Division I hockey. Okay, so there's not a set path in that way. One common thread that I will say, having worked with NCAA athletes and specifically Division I athletes, is there was a legitimate passion for the game that, while it can be fostered, they have to create it. Somewhere along the line, they're the one that chose, I'm going to shoot 100 pucks a day. I'm going to get into the weight room. I'm actually going to pay attention to nutrition. I'm going to ask my parents, can we afford, is there something I can do to get maybe skill lessons, skating lessons, that type of thing. So it really, and in every, honestly, in every professional coach I've talked to about their players, the Division I guys I've talked to, it really starts with that individual. So there's not a set path, and that's probably one of the great frustrations, right? Because you get somebody that I got a friend that he, through youth hockey, he played with Brian Giunta. Well, Brian Giunta moved on, and he didn't, but he was on the same teams and playing. And so what you can do as an individual, as a parent, is, again, we go back to it, right? Sounds like a broken record, but you support you support your child in what they're doing, right? You begin to let them make decisions. To me, once a player is around a peewee age, I think that's when they begin to know, what, this is something I really want. Mm-hmm. And now you start to begin to make choices and decide what is going to be the best path for them as an individual. Is it going away to prep school? Is it playing U18s and working your way to a local junior program? Then as that's happening, you're going to start to know, because coaches are going to find you and have conversations with you, college coaches. Based on those conversations, if you're a Division I player, most guys will never tell you, you have to go to this team or you have to go to that team. But many will share their opinions to prefer, what, this is a good league. This would be a good league for your development. So there's it's not cookie cutter. That's probably to me, it's one of the most wonderful things about it, but also one of the most frustrating things about it. Sure. Is, right, you feel like, well, if I just do this, 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 and this, I'm going here.
There's no guarantee.
And there's no guarantees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's athletics. And again, there's so many other factors that enter into this that you can't really say that there is a path as far as for your end game, but the path should be what is best for your child.
Right.
Right. But I think
in mind, right, Mike, if you keep that part in mind, and that's the hard part, because it's hard, because you're getting tugged all over the place. Hey, bring them over to my team. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. What is best for your child? I mean, that's in general. We send them we try to get them enrolled in schools that are the best for them, right? We try to expose them to other cultural things. Maybe it's music lessons, whatever. What's the best for them? Nobody ever said, hey, my kid plays piano, but your kid's pretty good. He plays trumpet. You think my kid should play trumpet? No, you don't hear that. You make the decisions based on what's best for your child. And it still does apply within the athletics. Once they get to a point where they are at a certain level and they do have a certain amount of commitment, then that's another discussion. But up until then,
right,
support.
Yeah, I also I got to plug this again. There are a lot of colleges that have fantastic club teams, Ivy League schools, Division I schools. Their club teams are very good, very competitive. Some of Sophia's friends, obviously they weren't good enough to make the the D1 teams, but they're all on club teams and they're just having phenomenal times and extremely competitive. They're getting a great education. They're getting Ivy League school educations, and they're still playing hockey for fun, but it is not, don't discount it. It's competitive too. And you have to try out for those teams too.
Right.
Right.
And here's a great point with that too, is you could argue who loves hockey more than a club player, because
Right.
a club player doesn't get sticks, doesn't
No.
get equipment, has to pay to be on the
Yeah.
team. So they're doing that for the pure love of the game.
Right. Yeah. So that's another path for your kids too. And don't underestimate the joy that the kids experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, I coached club hockey for 7 years and it was great. I mean, we won league championships, we went to national tournaments. It
That's
was
right.
great. I'm still in contact with a bunch of the guys, been to their weddings, that kind of thing. It's great. It's really good.
Mike, did you want to chime in? I saw you trying to get in there.
Yeah, no. I think you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, Chrissy brings it up, a lot, and we talk about just, the fact that there's so many alternatives, and it's really, I think I've got away from that path description, and really it's a journey, right? It's and everybody's journey is different. If I'm going to New York to California, my journey, maybe I'm in a Winnebago, maybe I'm on a plane, maybe I'm taking a train, maybe I'm, whatever, walking, taking a bike. There's all kinds of journeys, but I'm still going to get there. Like however I'm going to get there and however long it takes me, maybe some kids get there quicker than others, but wherever your journey brings you is really just something to kind of give you a perspective of saying, well, this is my journey and it's not mom and dad's journey. And I make mom and dad get into it that, no, this is my journey. I'm paying for it. I'm driving you.
Right.
The journey's my journey, our journey. And I find myself saying that all the time. Like I try to really be conscious, like, well, I'm not talking about we're training and we're doing this. It's you're doing this and I'm helping you. And we see that all the time, right? In sports fans, like, oh my God, our team is doing great, or
Yeah.
oh, we lost the big one last night,
Yeah.
or oh, if
we
would only
won
done
the
this,
Stanley Cup.
if we would have only done this, we would have done this. I'm like, you didn't do anything. So, you just bought beers at the stadium. So I think it's like, to me, find that journey, right, Pete? And I think when you're sitting in the room with a 17, 18, 19-year-old man, woman, whatever, girl, boy, with their parents, you want to hear it's their journey. And then how are they driving the journey? Of course, you need your parents or a guardian or somebody helping you. And sometimes you do need support and pushing you, right? And guiding you in that journey, because these are kids, really. But where is the line? What can you do? And do coaches see that and say, okay, here's a player I really want and I can help them? Or, oh my God, here's a player that has a parent that feels they're on the same journey, and this is not worth it for me to invest my time because I'm going to have to deal with this for 4 years.
Mike, I will say, while I was coaching in prep school, for the most part, and this was probably the last couple of years. So now we're like 2013 and 2015 in there. The question that I was asked most often and this is specifically at the Division I level, was, tell me about their parent. That was the question that I was asked most often, because, as a recruiter, whether or not you like a player.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is, unless you're, a McCarr or a Crosby or so on and so forth, McDavid, right? There's 100 of you, 1,000 of you, right? So those types of things matter, right? So if now you're yourself, like you just said, if you're self-advocating, right? And, you're a parent there to guide in that. But if you're one of those over-the-top parents, I've had many kids say, parents, you know what? I just don't, this kid here, I just can't take this kid based on his parent.
Right.
I've had coaches say that, but I can find another kid just like him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've seen that to be the case on some of the AAA teams that we've dealt with. I've seen kids not make the AAA team just because the reputation of the parents and the coaches don't want to deal with them. So I'm going to take the other kid who's on the bubble. but their parents are great. I'd rather take that kid than deal with a kid who's a little bit better and parents that are pains in the
Yeah,
butts.
it's a cautionary tale. It
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
is.
or the parent is a draw, right? It's just okay. If they're
Yeah.
not a positive, they're not a negative. They're just not really there. It's almost like they should be like an official, right? A really good
Yeah.
official. You don't even know the official's there, but you know they're guiding the game and they're in the game. They know they're calling penalties, they're calling balls and strikes. They're there, but they're not influencing. They're not pushing. They're just there. They're good. They're positive. They're supportive. They end the game on
Respectful.
time. You know, and
Yeah.
nobody's getting killed. That's really like a parent. A parent is in that role of, and that's the hard. Listen, you know, we're all dealing with this. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a tryout or a clinic or a program with my kids, and I want to go to the corner and talk to the other parents and kind of hang out, but I'm like, what's he doing over there? Oh, how did he do that drill? Or, you know, what did they do over there? And it's so hard not to do that. You know, other than that, just go down the street and go to the coffee shop. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then you look like you don't care at all. So it's a funny, you know, I'll give you
It's
one
balance.
story
It's all
real
balance.
quick, and then that we heard. I think Pete, I think you were with us when we heard this, but we were talking to Lou Varro about Brian Mullen, and his dad was working in the garden, right? I think I might have told the story before, but you know, he said, "Hey, we want to congratulate you, Mr. Mullen, on Brian. He's going, he's going to be leaving for Denmark tomorrow morning, and he's going to he made the national under-17 team." He's like, he did? Oh, that's unbelievable. He goes, yeah, good luck to him. I'm sure he's going to do great in that. I'm like, how? And when you talk to Brian, he said, my father loved me. We were connected. We were like at the hip, but he didn't care what and again, this is in the 70s, right? But still, it was like that whole disconnect of, okay, that's his journey.
That's his
Right.
deal.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I made sure he had food this morning. He got the equipment he needed. And yeah, we'll help him pack, but at the end of the day, it's his journey.
Yeah, and
Yeah, 100%.
I've been writing notes about this whole section, you know, and it's so tough. A lot of times I talk about being present on this show and being present in the moment, and it's real easy to get lost in 1 to 5 years from now where my kid's going to go. But at the end of the day, as parents, your child's the number one priority. I think we all share that, but we got to look at it like this. And Pete, you alluded to this. The top 1% that make it to college or pro, they have the talent. Okay. Let's just assume for a moment, most of us, the 99%, your kid is not in that top 1%. And if you're asking yourself, well, is my kid? You would know. Let me just tell you that right now. You would know. Okay. So if you're in that 99%, we're talking about the path, or we're talking about the journey. All right. So I'm going to play on words a little bit here, Pete. I actually do think there is a path and journey, and you said it. The path is super amounts of love for the game without you having to provide it. The path is the work. Is your kid waking up early, unprompted, and shooting pucks, as he said? Is he going to the rink? Is she going to the rink? Is she in the garage, or he in the garage after school? Are they studying the game on their own? Right? I told the story on this show many times about the day my father told me, if you love it, you'll do it on your own. And he was totally right. That clicked with me for whatever reason. He said at the right time. Right? That's part of the path. All right. The other part here is this. And I think we lose sight of this too much in hockey and maybe other sports too. The path is not limited to hockey. You are building habits of success for them to succeed in life, whether it's hockey or work or anything else that they do, being a parent themselves, right? And I wrote that down. They will have other dreams in their life. You are building the tools needed to succeed in those. We cannot lose sight of that. If your kid works his or her butt off all through youth hockey and you support them and they don't make a college team, that kid did not fail because that kid is now equipped with unbelievable skills for life. And I know people think I'm kind of playing the high road with it. I really believe in this stuff, right? And should you have the chance to play collegiate or even pro hockey, what a gift, right? But look at it like that. That is a gift that you put the time in. But listen, all of us know this. 40 comes quick, and your body is going to tell you that's it. You got a whole other half of your life you got to figure out. So I always want to come back to that, is change what the win is for you. I'm not saying don't focus on trying to make it. I'm saying have a broader, in my opinion, sense of what making it is. Right. So I just wanted to say that. All right. Pete, please feel free to comment, and then I'll kind of turn the conversation here.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with everything you say. You do a great job of really condensing it all, and that's what you do, right? That's who you
Yeah,
are.
some would say that. Yeah. Make a little
That's what you
sandwich
do.
out of it.
And it's really hard for parents to let go, control, and impact when you've spent your whole life essentially trying to control your child's situations, everything from who they play with, schools they go to. Do you want to go to an art class? Do you want to learn a musical instrument? Do you want to play this sport? Do you want to play that sport? So, I mean, I get that, having lived that myself as a parent with having 2 children, but it's incredibly freeing when you can come to that conclusion that it is about them. I'll do anything you want. That if you're into something, as long as it's not illegal or immoral, I'm there to support you 100%. Just
Right.
tell me what you need, and you create this great relationship with your child along the way. And if that in and of itself isn't worth it, I don't know what is.
I absolutely agree. I totally agree with that. So, friends, here's what I'm going to do, because this was like a Campbell's Chunky Soup episode. We got deep into it. It was fulfilling. I'm going to make this a 2-part episode. So I'm going to end this episode if you're listening, and the 3 of us are going to pick right up here in a minute. But make sure to stay tuned for the part 2 of this, or part 3 if you want to look at it like that. This is the trilogy with Pete Whitney on Our Kids Play Hockey. So real quick, I'm going to sign off, and we'll see you again on the next episode. We're going to talk about developing a program from scratch. And I'm going to tell you this, whether you're in that position or not, it's an episode you're going to want to hear, because you can learn a lot about how coaches look at the game, how organizations look at building a program, and how your kid may or may not fit into something like that. So really quickly, for Christy Casciano Burns, Mike Benelli, and Pete Whitney, I'm Lee Elias. Thanks for listening to this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Stay tuned for the next part next week with Pete Whitney. It's going to be a good one. Have a great day, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.